Welcome everybody. Welcome Johnny. Hey everyone.
Welcome.
Thank you for being here. Um, Thank you for everyone for tuning in. My name is Clifford Kaufman, and I'm in Nashville, Tennessee, and I'm a percussionist educator, and have admired Johnny Vidacovich for a long time. Um, Went to New Orleans to take a lesson with him probably about 6 years ago, and um, anyway, always loved New Orleans, and started this show, Clif Chats, just as a way to hopefully offer something that people can get some good ideas from, talking to interesting people. So I'd like to introduce Johnny Vidacovich. Johnny is from New Orleans and longtime staple of New Orleans, and has worked with the likes of Bobby McFerrin, Stanton Moore, Charlie Hunter, Robert Walter, Mose Allison, uh, and Professor Longhair, uh, James Booker, Alvin Tyler. He's taught at Loyola University. And so I would love everyone to, if you have any questions, I will try to get to them. And I have some questions as well. But we're going to have a conversation. And also, we connected, and I'm hosting Johnny for a masterclass that will be in February. I posted the link below. I believe it's February 7th, Saturday, February 7th at 3 Central Time. So anyway, I hope you can join that and ask Johnny more questions and hear about his musical philosophy of life, and that sort of thing. So thank you so much for being here, Johnny.
Thank you for having me.
And so there's
I
a quote.
appreciate it.
Oh, I appreciate you being here. And there's a quote that I love. I put it up in a place where I can see it, and I'd like to get your thoughts on it. Um,
Okay.
this is what it says. Your intent to deliver this thing of beauty has to be pure enough to overcome fear of what the response may be.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts
And
about that?
I understand it totally. Do you know who said it?
Yeah, that was Wynton Marsalis.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I understand it totally. And yeah, that's very true. I think basically what it means is you have to be very truthful to yourself. And when you look in the mirror, you can't be affected by what you might appear to be.
Hmm. What could that
In other
mean? What you
words, you
appear?
have to be truthful. In other words, when you play something, when you play a musical thing, you can't. You have to feel as though it's so from you and the truth inside of you, that regardless of it might appear to be, or it might sound like to somebody else, you have to overcome the idea of the reflection of what they might say or what they might hear. You have to believe so much in the truth that you're willing to look in the mirror and maybe not see a reflection of beauty. Are you willing to play a certain way, or feel a certain way about the music, and regardless, and take the chance of, well, oh man, maybe he's not, maybe he or she or they not going to like it. That's what I think it means. Say the quote again.
Yeah. Your intent to deliver this thing of beauty has to be pure enough to overcome fear of what the response may be.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I think I mean.
Do
If
you?
if 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 what I said is understandable,
I think
you
so.
just got to be not afraid of what somebody's going to say about what I feel is so much from the heart. What I think overrides people's opinion, dislike or dislike, overrides my ego in looking good.
Mm-hmm. Do you think living a
Yeah.
life in the arts, has it been a constant process of putting yourself out there, and has that changed the way you feel about it?
Putting yourself out there.
Meaning you
You
are putting
mean,
yourself
can you
out
go?
where people can criticize, or they can think
Oh,
whatever.
Yeah. Okay. And what about it? Living a life. What do I think?
So
I think that's
as someone who's been a
a good
professional
question.
musician for, you know, for a long time, has that been a constant
Uh huh.
process of realizing like I'm
Uh huh.
putting myself out there, or has it become something where it's just become normal to you?
It's not constant. It never was. It was always an oscillating thing,
Uh-huh.
according to one gig to the next. There are a lot of things that affected that. For me, it was never a constant thing of putting myself out there.
Uh-huh.
I would say that. Well, maybe 50% of the time, I love putting myself out there, or maybe more than 50% of the time. I
Okay.
love putting myself out there. I love taking that chance. I love stepping to the edge to see what people. I like pushing people and making them almost. Are you gonna like this or not? I'm that kind of guy. I like seeing. Just how far you can push an audience.
Uh-huh.
Up. You know.
Do you still,
Yeah.
I know performing is, you know, well, I know you're doing a live YouTube, I mean, not a live Facebook broadcast daily, I believe.
Yes.
What is your, what is it you want to get across in that? What is the reason for doing that?
Uh, because it's uh, on a very daily level. That's one thing, to do
Mm,
something daily,
mm-hmm,
repetitiously, all the time, to make myself to turn on a switch that says time to do it every day, 4 o'clock, time to do it,
mm-hmm,
and do it and come up with even though I don't have any guys to play music with, I'm trying to play musical pieces or musical ideas or musical fragments and use my imagination and memories and of the past, memories of the past, and hopefully memories in the future. I try to just use as much of my imagination as I can, and my wife just Deborah provides the platform. She
mm-hmm,
says, "Johnny, now's the time to do it." Johnny, nope, don't. No, come on, no, you can't, you got to, you got to be right, la la la. So she kind of just does all the driving, and so the whole point of it is that regular. Turn it on. Bum, 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 bum. Come on now, folks. Yeah,
hmm,
yeah, yeah. Peace and love. Just regular, 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 like a daily prayer, like a daily workout, like a daily nutrition. Just something very regular
mm-hmm. Has that been something that
that
you,
has to deal with music, imagination, and people, and people, and people, and people.
mhm, it's a way to
You
connect.
know, I do try to think about all the different people. Yeah, yeah. I'm not just doing it for me. I'm not just doing what I want to do. I'm really trying to think about the people more than myself. I think that's the only ticket for me to do it every day. If
Mm-hmm,
I did it every day for myself, I'd have quit months ago.
mm-hmm,
I was bored months ago with myself. It's the people that make me interested.
yeah. Doing it every day, is
So
that
I do it every day because I want to be with them people.
definitely? And I think you're offering a great service, and I think the people who are tuning in really understand that you are offering something. So thank you for doing that. I've tuned into a number of them and really enjoy them, and I'm gonna try to continue to do that as much as possible. So yeah, that's awesome. Um, so some of my questions, they might be
Take
kind of
it out.
out there, and feel free to just say, you know, that's too out there. But here, this is something, you know, these are some of these things are just things I think of.
Hey man, I'm your man for out.
Okay. Uh, what do you think, or do you think that psychologists and musicians have in common?
Wow, a lot. Well, I guess because it's I think that probably psychologists in the last 100 years, or maybe even way before that, because other people were knowing it before. I think they realized that the musician's brain because of dealing with music and emotion through vibration and sound and stuff like that. I think that psychologists, definitely see the effect of the collection of vibrations that music and different sounds make up, the effect on the brain. Of
Mhm.
course, all of that's been documented, but I mean, psychologists, I mean, I remember back in '67 when music therapy was introduced to the university as a study and a course and an actual program. Back then therapists were realizing the value of the musical brain and all the things that are around it, which are music, musicians, and listeners, people who listen to music. I mean, there's people who play music, but there's people who listen to music too, and that's go hand in hand. One can't exist without the other, I don't think. I guess they can, but I don't know how. You know.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I guess psychologists realize already know from a doctor of mine who he has to do with gastro stuff
Mhm.
and how it's connected to the brain. And he's a tenor player. He's a musician,
Mhm.
and he's a good one. And his main study is the stomach, but he has all of these degrees and stuff and doctor stuff in psychiatry and psychology and stuff like that. So he knows, and I know, and he knows, and we both know. So I mean, I think it's just something that's always been the psychiatry in the brain.
Mhm.
I know music does unbelievable things to my brain.
Likewise. Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
So we were listening to some different songs before we started. What is your
Uh,
process when you decide you want to record? How do you approach that typically?
Man, you were well, I'll tell you the process in a minute, but I was listening too for 15 minutes. Remember before we started it, so I
Yeah.
kept my ear things in the whole because I was afraid to touch them because I might turn the thing off. I know that this left one here, you turns everything off, so I ain't gonna take this left one out for a long time. Anyway, so before you started the thing, you were playing a thing off that blue record called Vadakovich, and the name of the tune you were playing was, I think, In the Zone.
Mhm.
Man, it was great. It
It
was I just forgot how good that was, man.
so
Whoa,
good.
whoa, whoa.
People need to check that out.
Tony,
If you didn't hear it, check it out. It's awesome.
In the Zone. Shane Terrio blew me away, man. Matt Perrine on the sousaphone. Whoa, it was crazy good. All right. So your question was my process.
Yeah, like how do you when do you decide it's time to record and then what do you do?
Okay. Right there, I usually wait for somebody else to say, "Hey, man, it's time to record." That's my first process.
Okay.
You know, I don't say, "Hey, I want to record a record," and try to tell somebody. I'll wait for somebody to say it to me.
Mhm.
And that's how it's been on mostly all the records that we, the several records, a handful of records that we've made. That's the way it's been. Somebody else just, I let somebody else make. I never let somebody else just did it. Somebody else, "Hey, man, John, make a record." Say, "Okay, break. All right." So then I kind of like except for We Came to Play, all the other records I put in the hands of a producer, specifically Jeff Meyer, in mostly all of the cases. Jeff would say, "Hey, let's do a record," and a lot he would sometimes he would say in the earlier records he would say, "I got this tune and this tune and this tune. Which one you feel like playing?" He'd say, I think I wrote this tune with you in mind. I wrote this tune with you." So the material would get together like that with Jeff Meyer. friend of mine, composer and a good drummer, and a long time personal friend, and he writes a whole lot. And anyway, so he would be writing music, and Michael Polera, great piano player from New Orleans. Well, he's from upstate New York, but he lived in New Orleans for a long, long time, forever. And Michael Polera would write songs. There's some early James Singleton songs on a couple of my early records. And so the process, answering your question, the process is I get as many people, turn it over to as many people as I can.
Mm-hmm.
So and when it comes to making decisions, I ask Jeff, I ask Michael, I say, hey, Jeff, is this drum beat okay that I'm playing? Should I play a different beat? Hey, Jeff. Jeff would say, hey, Johnny, that what you're playing don't sound good. I say, okay, I'll play something else, I'd say, Jeff, I don't decide which take is the best. I let them decide. They have more objective ears. My ears are too connected to the piece. My ego is too still much in the music to make objective decisions. So I try to, have other people do that. Another get a producer to listen to it. Tell me what to play. Tell me what sounds good, what sounds bad. Johnny, don't do this. Johnny, don't do that. It's not important that all of the songs are my songs on the record. One or two little ditties for me is fine. I really enjoy playing other people's music, man. That for me is just like, walking through, unknown charted territory or something. I don't know. It's just great. It's like tripping in the woods or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's great. So, my process is basically to get as many other people involved in it themselves. This gumbo of people's personal self-expressions. I think turns out it's a chance, but boy, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what's going to grow out of it. Whereas if I said, I'm the producer and we're playing my songs, and oh no, I don't want you to play that lick, and oh no, man, come on, man. You know how it's going to turn. It's going to turn out just like I want. And man, for me, what I want ain't so big a deal when it comes to making a project. I think when it comes to making a project, I like to see everybody excited. Everybody's expression in there, everybody's appetite wanting to get a piece of that music,
Yeah. And it sounds like the unknown is appealing to you.
Oh, there you go. Let's go. Yeah. The unknown is appealing. And really, in my personality type, that's not the type of personality I am to deal with the unknown. But when it comes to music, I'm just the opposite.
So how do you feel about rehearsal?
Rehearsals are just the time when you play, sometimes they're valuable because you have some difficult music that you're getting ready to play, and you have to get familiar and comfortable with it, so rehearsals are necessary for things like that. A lot of times, if there's no specific slick type of arrangements or anything, if it's more or less like a sort of a jazzy or an improvising type of gig, I don't like rehearsals unless we're getting together to rehearse not what we're going to play, but just to get together to rehearse to feel each other. Because when we get out there, we want it to be spontaneous, as opposed to try to recreate what we played at rehearsal, try to recreate that in a live setting. For improvised spontaneous music, I don't think that's such a good idea. I'd rather be totally not know what the hell's going to go on. And there's the audience, there's the lights, time to go. Whoa, we got to make music. Yeah, I love that. I love that. But if it's that kind of music, but of course you can't. So a different type of music definitely requires, a good focus rehearsal. And then there's when it comes to improvised, creative, spontaneous music, I'm not in favor of so-called structured rehearsals, only rehearsals to get together and goof off. Maybe some rehearsals I've had, even with music, we never took our instruments out of the cases. We wound up sitting around drinking coffee, maybe talking to them. Hey, man, you see letter B? Y'all better look at letter B. Yeah, all right. You got that? All right, cool. Okay. Yeah, and maybe talk about some other stuff, you know. So some rehearsals got. I remember I played with this one trio with me, George Porter Jr. playing bass, and David Torkanowski playing the piano. And we had a trio together for a long time. There's a little trio called SIC, S-I-C, you know. And our rehearsals consisted of going out to lunch, and we go to a real nice restaurant, have a real nice lunch, and that would be rehearsal, you know? Yeah. And sometimes, as a matter of fact, most of the time we did not talk about music.
I think you're hitting on something that it's taken me a really long time, and I'm probably still figuring it out. A lot of times I always felt like I need to go in the practice room. I need to practice. I need to practice. I need to get better. I'm not good enough. But now it's like more like I need to talk with my friends, you know? And so it sounds like, well, I'm curious, what do you think the interpersonal relationship really goes further than technique? Is that, would you agree with that?
Yes, I think it's a two-story house. I think it's a double. I think it's a, it's a duplex, man. I think that, one side is you and your boys, yes, working out the material. And the other side is simply you take them boys and y'all cross over, to the other side of the same house, and y'all eating and drinking and talking and listening and all of that.
And so without that social aspect, it sounds like the music is missing something, maybe. Yeah.
Maybe it's not mandatory. It's not mandatory by no means, because music is way more powerful than the I just think that the other part of the duplex is just fun, and I think that's great. But no, when it comes down to the final thing, the music, the concert, the time to play it, the time to do it, nothing makes a difference. Nothing makes a difference.
What do you mean?
I've even played with guys that I. What?
No, I was going to say, what do you mean nothing makes a difference?
I mean the rehearsals, the fun, the talk, nothing. Because once you start playing, man, you're playing. You're out there. There's, it's happening. You're in the now. So.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, all the beauty and the camaraderie, is a beautiful thing in a rehearsal and all of that. But I've also played music with and had rehearsals with guys that don't like me and I don't. But yet we still got to play a gig together, and yet we still have to have a rehearsal and get the specific music together that has to be rehearsed and conducted and played again. Oh, it wasn't right. Play it again. 1, 2, 3. You over there. And some guys, I don't like this cat. He don't like me. I don't know why. We got, and it turns out beautiful and great. And, that's the point. And we know it. We might not talk to each other, but we know it. We know that the music was better than both of us.
So you can have a musical connection, but not.
And it might have taken us.
So you could have a musical connection, but not have the interpersonal connection.
Yes, you can. Yes. Oh, yes, you can. And I'm positive of that. I've been through it.
What do you
lived through it and became friends with the very person that did not like me and I didn't like him 45 years ago. And now we're friends.
Through music. I mean, because of music, definitely. I would guess.
Time and music.
Yes, time and music. Music. Some distance from whatever. How have you dealt with those situations? Because I know there's lots of people who've been in that situation where you're playing with somebody and you're just not seeing eye to eye. Any advice for them? Or
be humble. Take a deep breath. Don't take no bullshit. Look them straight in the eye. Let them do the talking. Only say what's necessary, and never. Don't. They're trying to get you. They're trying to push your buttons, right? Don't let them push your buttons. Just, you know, it's all a matter of taking about. The music is bigger. The music is bigger.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're just two little ants fighting with one another over a piece of music, which is much bigger than both of us to carry. But yet we're going to fight over it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in the long run, both of us are going to carry it. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. Some people tuning in maybe have never been to New Orleans. You're from New Orleans, and what is unique about New Orleans?
It's small. But the people are close together. There's not many people. Get around town in 5 or 10 minutes. You know, you can be any part of town. Can, you know, and it's a strong, a lot of music. You know, everybody's very proud of the music on all levels, whether it be brass band music, whether it be rock, whether, you know, all styles are, you know, unimportant. You know, and everybody's very feels strong about the tradition, you know, and proud of the tradition. And even as modern as they put an edge on it, they still seem as though they have their feet a little firmly planted in tradition. So that's kind of cool. Because I always used to, you know, I always be telling guys, you know, hey man, you know, you got to have your feet firmly planted in this cheeseburger of life, you know. But you know, I think it's very cool that I noticed that a lot of people around here do have their feet planted in tradition, you know, because tradition sells around here.
Mm-hmm.
Tradition is a marketable item in New Orleans.
That makes sense.
You know,
if someone were visiting
yeah,
New Orleans,
it's in
okay, go ahead.
mm-mm.
If someone were
If someone
visiting,
was visiting New Orleans, what?
yeah, and they wanted to learn more or soak in the feeling of music, I've heard you say, watch the kids play. And it's interesting. When I was
Yeah,
in New Orleans, I saw you teach. It was really interesting for me. I think it was at what club was it? Could it have been Tipitina's that you were teaching some kids?
probably because I
Okay.
thought, yeah, my wife had a long program now. Yeah,
Okay. So this is about 6 years ago, and I
yes,
remember, I remember seeing, it was a pretty young kid who probably did not have much experience playing, and you were like, I don't remember if you were kind of playing the stick with him or what you're doing, but you were really helping him like feel and grounding him in the time. It was just interesting because not everybody has that experience of learning physically like that. So it was
mm-hmm.
really interesting to see. That was just something that I um, observed, and then you know, from what I know about you, you weren't an educator, didn't consider yourself educator originally. When you were early on in your career. When did it kind of click? Like, I'm an educator as well. I'm not just a performer.
When did it click?
Yeah. Or
Uh,
when did you say to yourself, like, I am an educator? Or is that something you said to yourself?
uh, well, I guess the realization to those kind of things comes pretty late in life because in the beginning, if you're educating, you know, you're just basically doing it as a supplemental income, and you still consider yourself a gigging musician, you know, even though 90%, 80% of the musicians I know supplement the income by teaching, you know, whether it's 1 hour a week or whether it's 15, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But to answer your question, when did I consider myself an educator? Well, I realized for sure, concretely, that I was an educator by the time I was around 40,
Mm-hmm.
you know, 40 something, maybe 41 or two. Then, but I was educating and functioning as an educator when I was 17. I was teaching, half an hour drum lessons to young people up on top of a music store in a small room, 15 minutes out of a book reading and counting, and then 15 minutes on a drum set learning to play some basic beats and playing along with a record of their choice a lot, at the age of 17, I was teaching on a regular basis, several days a week, in
Mm-hmm.
order to make, at that time, I was only making like you know, $3 an hour, about $4 an hour, you know, but that's a lot of money in 1966 for a young guy, you know. You know, if I was on Saturdays, if I would teach from 10 to 5, you know, hey man, it's a lot of half-hour lessons. So you know, and then if I had a little weekend gig, you know, with my high school buddies playing in a band, you know, then you know, I had money in my pocket when I was 17, you know. So I quickly learned that I was supplementing the couple of gigs that I was getting on a weekend with my teenage rock and roll band at the CO in a high school gymnasium, you know, playing sock hops and Sam and Dave and Wilson Pickett and James Brown and after school I'd be going up to teach little kids on Saturday mornings, be teaching little kids. So all right, I was educating then, you know, but I didn't consider myself an educator. You know, I considered that supplemental income, you know, because I was playing gigs. And then as soon as out of high school, I was playing all the time, you know, gigs at night in the French Quarter, you know, on Bourbon Street and all the clubs around there, and playing with rock and roll bands again, college band, you know, wasn't teaching too much. Then when I got out of college, playing gigs, but you know, guys would call me and say, I want a lesson. So I was teaching. But when I got married and had a baby, by that time I was teaching several hours a week. Frank Pizzullo started a program at Loyola University, a jazz program, and I took on more students because I was part of the part-time faculty. So, you know, but I was still playing gigs 6 nights a week, you know, at the so, but when I was 40, I realized I've been teaching all these years. I had turned out great students. You know, we talk about Stanton Moore and Brian Blade. They came here when they just didn't know anything. You know, they hardly knew anything. You know, they knew how to play a couple of rudiments. You know, they didn't know. And I taught them guys. You know that. And then when I saw them guys grow up, I realized that I was a teacher, and of course, I realized without that extra. Hey, you guys, Desi, sorry.
No worries.
I realized that that these guys were learning stuff from and growing up, and they were good.
Yeah.
And so when I was 40, I realized in reality that part of being a musician is teaching. Even if you don't teach next to you and say do this and do that, if somebody looks at you while you're playing, you're teaching, because that little kid or that guy looking at you is going to go home and try that. And where did he get that to try from? He got it from you. So that meant you taught him.
And you never know how you might.
You're a musician.
You never know how you might inspire.
So many guys will say, yeah, and so many guys. That's right. There's so many guys say, "Oh man, I don't teach. I'm a player, man. I don't know anything about teaching. I'm a player, man. I don't teach. I'm a full-time musician." Man, bro, some little kid at you and says, "Man, that was cool. I don't know who that guy is. Never talked to him, but he's gonna go home and try it, and he got it from you." Guess what? That's about the way I learned about 60%, 70% of the stuff I know. Not even talking to the dude, not even meeting the dude, just watching him or listening to him. Don't have to see him. I've been listening to shit. So, I'm going to try to play like that. So that means that taught me. He's an automatic teacher.
Yeah.
Even read the history about the first trumpet player who turned down the first jazz recording. I can't remember his name right now. Anyway, I want to say Percy, but anyway, there was a guy who used to put a handkerchief over his fingers when he played the trumpet because everybody steal his licks.
Yeah.
And when RCA said, "Hey, we want to record you. You're going to be the first jazz band," he said, "Oh no, I don't want nobody stealing the way I play." So instead, this other Pete LaRocca became the first recorded jazz band. But this other guy turned down the contract. I can't remember his name right now. A famous guy. Just it's on history stuff, man. So I mean, you're always a teacher, and some guys, so musicians think that, oh no, I'll never be a teacher, I'm too good of a musician. That cracks me up.
Hmm.
Because the better musician you are, the more people look at you, the more people imitate you, the more of a teacher you are.
Yeah. I was listening to an interview you did with a drummer resource. I believe it's Nick Ruffino. Um, and you were saying how teaching
Yeah,
doesn't have that
exactly.
immediate. It doesn't come back immediately in the same way that the immediacy of live music, which I think is a really interesting thing to think about. How something could sometimes take years. Like I had a student years ago. Every time I taught him, I was exhausted. 30-minute lesson, exhausted, and he
Oh
contacted
yeah,
then
teaching.
he moved out of town with his family, came back to town, and took a lesson. And he was really into music. He moved away, and I don't take any credit for this, but it turned out he went to school, got a music degree, pursuing life in music. And
Uh-huh.
so to me that just illustrates you never know
Uh-huh.
how you can influence somebody. So it's interesting that you said you don't, it can take a really long time for that to come back. Like when you first taught Brian Blade
Yeah,
or
come.
Stan Moore, maybe you saw something in them, but you probably
Hmm.
couldn't have predicted what they would end up doing.
Nope, nope. Yeah, yeah. And I think that's the reason why I answered your question, that it took me so late in life to come with the realization that I was that teaching was part of what I did, because I saw the stuff coming back. You
Hmm.
know, look, when Stanton walked in here, I'm telling you, he was sure. I got pictures of him. You wouldn't recognize him. He's young and like 15 or something, 14. I don't know if they drove him here or what. But I mean, I looked at a picture the other day. I mean, he looks like, I'm going like, wow. And like that, you send me holding people's hands like that. As one little guy did that with his hands. Now he's taller than me, and he's one of the best drummers you ever heard in your life. His name is Jamie Jones. Watch out. Watch out for
Check out
Jamie
Jamie
Jones.
Jones. All right, I'll
And when
check
I
him out.
first messed with him, he was full. He was a little bitty kid. He couldn't even reach the pedals. I put him on my knee,
Yeah.
held his hand, then he moved my hand. The cat was playing, and before you know it, he was standing up playing with his butt on the edge of the seat because he couldn't get up on the seat and reach the pedal. So he just put his butt up against the back of the seat and played that bass drum pedal. Have to rock to get to the sock cymbal, Have to, but yeah, man. Yeah, teaching is funny. It comes back on you later. Then when you're old, then you realize you're a teacher.
Hmm. Yeah.
I love it. It's very
And just want to
funny.
let
It
people
was
know
very funny.
I'm hosting Johnny for a master class on February 7th, and I hope some of you all tuning in can join in. Um, there's a few comments. John McCann was clapping earlier on, and Michael McGlynn says thanks, Johnny.
Hey,
Steve
man.
Rich says great
Yeah.
interview. Ted Warren says he has to split, but thank you for setting this up, and thank you, Mr. Vadakovich, for sharing your wisdom. Bob Stanger says great interview. What were the early cutting days like?
Do it again till you get it right. Primitive. I remember being very young, going into Cosmo Studio when I was still in high school. Some big band stuff,
Mm.
and I was very very young. And yes, it was cut on. There wasn't 2-track tape then. I mean, not 2-inch tape. It was like 1/4 inch tape, I think. And
Mm.
I don't think it was stereo. I think it was mono, maybe. And and then later that improved. I mean, the early cutting days were quite primitive. A lot of trial and error. Once especially when we started to go in with rock bands in like the 1965 and 6, when 2-track recorders were kind of around, and some garages were getting turned into small studios. I mean some.
Nothing like today, right?
And then there was a thing called sound on sound, which is more like overdub. And boy, then we started messing with that. You know, this is all around the time of early Jimi Hendrix, you know, Purple Haze. You know, we were trying to get we were trying as many things too in those early days of record. Well, I'm calling early days, 66, you know. You know, those days we just spent a lot of time and a lot of takes, you know, because there was no digital stuff. There was no cut and paste. It was slice, and slicing was a big deal because you had to cut the tape in the right place. And if you didn't, you know, that track was, forget it, you know. So
that could be expensive.
It was better to get and then the overdubbing thing was not a big deal. So I mean, you had to have the cats all cut a good track at one time. You know, everybody had to play good at one time. You know, so I mean, you know, did we do over 27 takes on some tunes back in 1966? Yeah. Now I remember doing 30 on a tune. You know.
What education that must have been just in itself.
You know, oh man, I was young and dumb and having fun, man. Young and dumb and having fun.
Is that the name of a song or an album?
That's the name of my life, bro.
Stephen Sharman says, might that have been Buddy Bolden that he was saying when you were talking about the trumpet player?
No, same period, same area. But man, I'm gonna find his name.
There's a film that came out last year that was about him. That was and it was basically, it was about that. Delfeo Marsalis came to Nashville and talked about that. The film, and then they played it. There's a museum of African American music opening up in Nashville this year.
It was on TV the other night. That's why I'm talking about it. You know, and I knew about it. It's one of my favorite stories in life, and I saw it on TV with pictures of the guy.
Was the film that you saw super dark? Oops, frozen.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think it's the same one.
Yes.
So you learned how to read. You marched early on. Had someone of the older generation teaching New Orleans. It was New Orleans tunes, or was it other tunes? Was it like more like typical marching tunes?
Well, in marching band, it was very much in school. It was standard marching music. You know, in traditional New Orleans, the kid bands. You know that the first band I played with was not a brass band, not a marching band. I mean, I'm not talking about school now. All right, I'm not talking about marching in the school band. I'm talking about playing music with the kids in what at that time they used the word Dixieland, which we don't use too much anymore. We don't like that, so we say traditional music. So it was a trad jazz band with kids, and the tunes we learned were all the New Orleans standards, everything from the Saints to way down yonder New Orleans, Bourbon Street Parade, Louisiana. Tiger Rag. I mean, I don't know why. Just a million New Orleans tunes. Plus, some of those were standards that you would hear. I don't know why. I love you like I do. Even though all the trad cats played around here, there was a version on the radio that was a little bit more, kind of, popped up, on the AM radio. But anyway. So and if the occasion arose where you were not sitting down playing music, that band would easily stand up and become a marching band real quick. Second line band, not a marching band, but a street. Walking band.
Yeah.
So and those two things go hand in hand. But yes, to answer your questions, the songs that we learned were songs from around here that were popular because you wanted the older cats wanted to make sure that the young cats were prepared to go out there and so you had to know the music. You weren't gonna be playing always for kids. You would have to older people were gonna walk up and say, "Hey man, play Misty. Hey man, play Bourbon Street Parade, and turn right around and say, "Hey man, play Misty." You know, I mean, so you know, I was learning everything as a kid. You know, everything from rock and roll to playing in a concert band in school and marching band, and playing uh, funk and rock and roll, and playing jazz. Sometimes, you know, different bands here and there. A lot of sitting in. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. So one thing that it sounds like that New Orleans has in common with the music from West Africa is it's a oral tradition. Is that is that true, or were you also learning some of those songs? You know, were they also written parts?
Both. Yeah,
Both.
both. Yeah,
Okay.
both.
So it's kind of, it was
Uh,
that
mo-
kind of.
mo- mo-
Oh, go ahead.
Mostly in the beginning for me, oral, because I'm a drummer. You know, for the guys that you know who, if you want, hey man, go like blah 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 blah. Oh no, man, it's a G to C. And then write it down for the cat. You know. I
Hmm.
mean, if you can't hear it, then read it. You know, if you can't read it, then maybe hear it. You know, I mean, it wasn't a question about, oh, I don't want to learn how to read music. Hey, man, learn how to play it. Whether you got to read it or play it, but learn how to do it. God damn it, we got to make this gig. You know,
Whatever it takes.
get it right.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so,
Whatever it takes. Hey, you speak. Hey, man, You speak English. You read English. You
uh,
hear English. You write English. Therefore, you read English, right? And you speak it and you write it.
yeah,
Music's the same thing. You play it, you hear it, write it. If you can hear it, you can write it. You know, if you can say it, you should be able to write it phonetically, or one way or the other. And music's written many ways. There's not one way to write music.
yeah.
Anyway, I'm sorry. I went off on a left there on people who
You can go off anytime. So your concept of the bass drum, how what is that concept? And without, I know I'm asking you to talk about something where it's probably easier just to illustrate it. And the master class, you'll be able to do that. But how did the marching and the New Orleans music affect how you think about the bass drum? Like what is the bass drum to you?
it's really important. Uh, Going back and going back today, even so, in a brass band where there's two drummers, where one plays snare drum usually, and the other guy plays bass drum with a little cymbal on with his left hand for a backbeat. Usually, I find that especially in the older bands, man, the better drummer was the bass drum player because he was solid and held it together. So I
Hmm.
really put a lot of importance on the bass drum.
Uh-huh.
Not so much importance on a snare drum. It's just playing a little time along. That bass drum has to really be, holding everybody together, because those guys in the band tend to drift apart and get distracted real easy in them crazy brass bands. So I mean, the bass drum player is usually the guy holding everybody together. So for me, I mean, the bass drum is so important.
Hmm.
Even when you're feathering it and you're not hearing it, maybe they're not hearing it. When you're feathering it, sometimes that's feathering means playing it real soft, like in a drum set situation.
Hmm.
Even the marching bands, oh, boy, they have a way of finesse where they just kind of puffing that beat, or I mean, they bop it and all of that, but there'll be times when sometimes they walk in a floor like that, boom, 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 boom. I've seen a couple of old cats do that,
Mm.
and a lot of
So,
young cats just say boom, ching, boom, ching, boom, ching, boom, ching, boom, ching. But I see some old cats boom, ching, boom, ching, boom, ching, boom, ching, boom.
dynamic. That's cool, man.
you know. Oh man, oh man, oh man.
Well, so if
Yeah.
anyone who's tuned in who has not at least visited New Orleans, there's really no city like it, and so definitely if you get a chance, go to New Orleans, and even just what is it, Lafayette Square? There'll probably be a brass band playing, and they'll probably be amazing and sound great. I remember whenever I'm there, I'll hear the music from, blocks away, and I'll search, I will find it, and there'll be a crowd around whoever is there. But it's interesting about the bass drum. It's interesting about New Orleans music and the influence of African music, because I really hear it. I've studied music in West Africa and studied with some master musicians, and there's some similarities. Like there's music from Guinea, West Africa, where there's 3 bass drums, and each one's tuned to a different pitch. And so, but I hear that melody in a different way in the New Orleans music. Well, I really appreciate you talking with me. I'm curious about what are some quintessential recordings, some quintessential New Orleans recordings that you would recommend checking out?
The original Rolling Stone. Rolling Stone was an old singer, older singer from around here. I recommend that. The original Rolling Stone. And it's not the Rolling Stones. So this guy's name is Rolling Stone. And it's Dr. John Earl Stanley. I played drums on it. But anyway, it's a great record. But it has some great old songs on it. So for me, I like that because it has old songs on it. As far as quintessential recordings, man, Earl King, I'm talking about some R&B shit stuff now. Johnny Adams, anything by Johnny Adams, that's a little bit more, not current, but a little bit more into the middle. He passed away a while back, but I mean, his recordings are all good. There's a whole lot of older stuff by Earl King, Jesse Hill, those are going to be the harder things to find, but they're available, and I have to think about it a little bit more, and I have to come out with a list because people ask me that all the time.
Okay, well, yeah. If anything else comes up, and
so
I can post
I'm gonna work on a I'm gonna work on a better answer.
Okay, well, thank you for the people you did mention. It's interesting. When I was in New Orleans last, I took a lesson with Jason Marsalis, and he didn't play the drums one time. He was like, "Oh, you were interested in that? Let's find an album that has that on it." So that was a lesson in itself. Was just about the aural, about the, where can we find that? Where can we find that being in context? So it's really interesting. I can only imagine how, musically, how wonderful it'd be to grow up in a place like New Orleans, where it is a part of the tradition and oral tradition. And I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me. And if anyone has any questions, feel free. John Harvey says, feathering the bass drum. Love it, John.
Yep.
But a lot of what my questions I have asked, you had mentioned the album, I believe, Duster, that Laurie Coryell's on. What is it about that album that gets you?
Roy Haynes is so ahead of his time. Roy Haynes is just, everybody's great on it. I just love it. I just think that, back in 1967, when I listened to that, man, it was like I never heard any music like that before. I just think that it's very, very American, man. Really, and Roy Haynes is just so, his body is just so contrapuntal. It's just he's just ahead of his time. And it's just him, man. It's just like very personality, man. The record has so much, personality in it, and he's so free, and he's so contrapuntal in the music, and so linear, so linear and so buoyant. He's so, he has those nicknames of being Snap, Crackle, and Pop, and all of that. Man, he's buoyant, man. He's just like hovering above the music, man.
Yeah.
Really shadow boxing everything there.
Yeah. And he's still around, still doing it. I got to drive him around for about 3 or 4 days at the at Portland Jazz Festival. When I used to live in Portland, Oregon,
Uh-huh.
and it was interesting. Well, a few things. One was when we picked him up from the airport, he was in a wheelchair. This is about
Uh-huh.
7 years ago, and so I was like, "Oh, how's he going to perform?"
Uh-huh.
But by the time we were in the hotel lobby, he was tap dancing. I think it was just to conserve energy, and he was, I
Yeah.
think, 89 at the time or 88, something like that. He put on the most energetic performance I've
Right.
ever seen. He was tap dancing. He was coming out in front of the drums and hitting them in time, and just, I mean, it was incredible. So anyways, it was cool to hear about, obviously he's been influential for so many drummers, and I can tell for you as well. What are some other albums that really move you, or things you're listening to now?
Country roads and other places. Country roads and other places.
Who's that by?
That's by Gary Burton also.
Okay.
And it also has Roy Haynes on the drums. Since
Uh-huh.
you said Roy Haynes, I mean that came right in my mind.
Yeah.
So that's influential to me. A record that's been the most influential to me, I think, is Bill Evans' live at the Village Vanguard sessions with Scott LaFaro and Paul Motion. Those records and sessions, I think, I still to this day. I've been listening to those records since about '68. And I spent most of my time listening to live at the Village, Vanguard with Bill Evans. Then I like all of that Miles Davis stuff. Any of it,
Mm-hmm.
any of it.
Including like
Especially the
Bitches
stuff with
Brew,
Tony
also.
Williams.
Yeah.
I love Bitches Brew. I love Bitches Brew and Live Evil. I love Four and More. I love My Funny Valentine, which are basically Carnegie Hall sessions.
Yeah.
I love those, and then I love Sorcerer and Nefertiti and Miles Smiles. I like those. I mean, and I like a bunch of Bill Evans records with with Eddie Gomez and Marty Morell. I like those. I like all the John Coltrane stuff, man. John Coltrane with Johnny Hartman, John Coltrane with Duke Ellington, John Coltrane playing ballads, John Coltrane, anything John Coltrane is up in
What
my
about
book.
Money
I
Jungle?
like Stan. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that, right? And I like Stan Getz and Bill Evans.
Yeah.
You should hear that with Elvin Jones.
Oh man,
Playing.
you got. I'm gonna have to make a list, and got some new listening for probably a number of us. Yeah, I'm not familiar with all of what you mentioned, so that'll be cool to check out. Well, I thank you so much for talking with me, and I'm really excited about the masterclass. For people who are tuning in, I posted a link at the bottom. I'm hosting Johnny for a masterclass on Saturday, February 7th at 3 p.m. Central Time, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. So check that out if you're interested. Like I think I mentioned earlier on, I took a lesson with Johnny in person probably about 6 years ago in New Orleans, and it was definitely that hands-on teaching and stuff that I do believe that you can transmit that information. There's certain things you can't do. You can't grab someone's hand and you can't play time for them, but there are things that you can transmit online. And so I'm looking forward to just hearing more about what your philosophy and what you do. So anyway, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me. And also, people check out Johnny's music, because we played some at the beginning, and it's beautiful music. I think if you don't like it, something's wrong with you. Something's wrong with you if you don't like this music. That's all I have to say. But yeah. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in.